We are entering a new era here. The first mood-lifting, antidepressant, happy plant.
We want rebel music, street music, music that breaks down people's fear of one another, music that knows who the real enemy is.
J'ai fait des films très très différents dans ma vie. Et donc, pour que je vous dise qu'est-ce que c'est qui m'a mené à faire ce travail pendant tant d'années.
Jedno biće se poništi da bi drugo živjelo.
Dida, pogledaj tamo.
Previše struje!
Moramo hitno pronaći Didu.
Vrijeme prolazi, a mi stojimo.
Dobro jutro, nasukali smo se.
Ja sam pilot, nisam mornar!
Dragane!
Jesam ruput, Svesulija, mi vaše najdemo.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. I hope you have a nice Sunday today. Good to see you guys again. I am Menina Putri Wismurti. I am the festival co-director of Europe On Screen 2020. And today we will have a session of film talk with the director of Croatian film My Grandpa is an Alien, Mr. Dražen Žarković.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, hello. I hope I say your name correctly?
Close enough. Close enough.
So how actually to pronounce your name, if I may learn?
Dražen Žarković. So
Dražen Žarković.
Okay. It's nice. My parents weren't thinking about my international career, when they named me. So it has a little bit of unpronounceable syllables, for most of the people around the world, but it's okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dražen. And but before we start, I think I would also like to remind everyone about the rule of our webinar session today. That this session is actually broadcasted live on the Europe On Screen YouTube at the moment, and also all the session will be held in English. And if you have questions, you can also ask at the button below. There's a Q&A button below on your screen. And if you want to also ask the question in Indonesian language, I will help you to translate to Dražen as well. So we could actually begin. How is it right now in Croatia at the moment?
Well, around 0 degrees. It's foggy outside, expecting snow these days. So
oh, wow.
I guess it's quite opposite from Jakarta. And we have around, 4,000 COVID cases per day. So not that well. We are in partial lockdown, but we're holding up at the moment. So waiting for the vaccine as the rest of the world, I guess.
Yes. So you are already also in the kind of lockdown again?
Yeah, partial, not that seriously as this spring, but the schools are still open and, kids are going to the school, but restaurants and cafe bars, just since yesterday, they closed them down because the COVID cases started to rise up rapidly. So they had to do something. The government had to do something. So we are in partial lockdown, but it's not that dramatic at the moment, but we have to stop to make it not to make it so.
Yeah, here we don't have like a fully total lockdown like what you guys have in Europe. We only have a kind of like semi-lockdown, but it's still going on until today, basically. So
yeah, I know. Yeah. I saw the news, so best of luck there.
For you too. Best of luck for you too. So for this film itself, what was the inspiration and also the story behind when you made the film? I know that there are actually 2 directors for this film, you and Marina.
Yeah, this movie, it was actually a long time coming. It took us almost 7 years to make it, 8 years now, because it's a 1-year-old feature now. Actually, my producers came to the short story of one of our writers in Croatia by the name of Irena Krčelić, and they found it, appealing, like it has a potential to be developed into feature film for the kids, And they started developing the story, the script with the original writer, and they spent a year or 2 making it, but it didn't turn out quite well as they expected. And I just finished one other film for the kids in Croatia, which was locally a bit of a success. And I came for the rescue, so to speak, So Marina, my co-director and producer, we're going way back. We were actually together in film school here in Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. And actually, she was editor. She was studying for editor back then, and she actually edited my first project as a director. So we know each other, over 20 years, and we have been in contact, but never collaborated since those past times. And we bumped into each other. Actually, I just finished that, had a premiere of that the other film for kids, and actually wasn't ready for the other one right away, but she asked me to take a peek at the script, and so gradually, bit by bit, I came dragged into this project, and I learned to love it. I liked it quite a lot, And at one phase, we decided, we needed just to shake that initial script a little bit, and then, turn it already had, to find a new focus. And with the help of a few other writers, and myself, we managed to did that. We wrote completely new scripts. We kept the premise, the original premise in the original idea, but changed quite a bit everything else around it, turn it on the heads and find a new log line and a new focus. And then, story kind of opened itself to the world and to the European market. And we started to gain co-producers all over the Europe, and at the end, this became a co-production of 7 European countries, which is quite unprecedented in Croatia, to gather so many interested parties, all around the Europe. So there was a Czech Republic, Slovenia, Luxembourg, Norway, which was their help was crucial. Luxembourg, Croatia, of course, Slovakia. So we had creative talent for all of those countries. So it was quite a melting pot, of production. And it was almost like we were making the movie in these pandemic times because it was made over the Skype, we transfer, sharing files online. It got a little bit frustrated from time to time. We didn't have a chance to meet the persons, the talents, collaborate, eye to eye in person, on the other side of the table. But it was always like this, like we're doing right now. But on the other hand, it was quite, collaborative, and it opened up many other ideas, because this was people from other countries, other mentalities, temperaments, and everything, and everybody put something in that we maybe didn't expect at the beginning, or even think to ask for it, so.
Yes. And also, I found it for the film itself. It's quite resonate well with me because I was also close with my grandpa, and my grandpa is actually quite eccentric as as Una's grandfather. Luckily, he's not an alien. So yes, what is there any personal story or experience behind this?
Well, not literally, this is all echoes of our personal lives, our complete production team here in Croatia. We had kids at the time of production that was Una's age, we had and I don't know, you probably noticed some similarities to the E.T. of Steven Spielberg, it was my dearest movie when I was in that age, so I was trying my heart out, when E.T. was went home. So we almost subconsciously tried to evoke some of those emotions from our own childhood, and to present them to our kids nowadays, so it was all interconnected actually, so subconsciously, unconsciously, but that's what we got.
And is it hard working with the child actor? Like, because I heard
the hardest part of working with kids, I made now this was my second film for the kids, working with the child actors, and before that I was assistant director on some other projects when my job was to find initially, child actors. And the most difficult part of this process is to find them. Once you find those kids, it's much easier, so because they either got talent or they don't, when they have it, it's quite easy. Una is Lana, who was playing Una. She is actually quite accomplished dancer, really successful one. And she was at the age of 10 when we were shooting this. And she was so resilient, because of her dancer experience. She's used to endless rehearsals, repetitions and everything. So it was actually quite easy working with her. And the most difficult part for working for her was collaboration with the robot, because the robot itself is a dead thing. So we had the actor who was giving the voice of the robot, Dodo, in the Croatian. We had endless rehearsals, with him having the robot in his hand, and talking behind it, and she was we rehearsed every scene, into great details that way. And so, and then when we were shooting, she was quite aware where exact scene, in which part of the movie it belongs, what's happening, what's the motivation, because we went through all of that. And so the shooting process was mainly the execution, what that emotions that it fixated rather early. I mean, it was me and my co-director feeding her the robot lines behind the camera. So it's quite an intuitive process, for even experienced actor, so you don't have you're not getting anything back from your partner, there's no eye contact or anything.
True.
Before eyes of the robot was that's also an interesting story. He was a real puppet, and we had he was made in Czechoslovakian.
So it was a real robot.
It was a real robot made in Czech Republic in one studio, because Czechs they were co-producing movie also, and their tribute was they have that great animatronics and puppeting studio, and we ordered the robot from them. It was designed in Croatia.
Oh.
From
Wow.
one of our famous designers, he illustrates books for kids. He's kind of in steampunk and such visuals, and so he designed it, and they made it for real. And there were all the time, what I said, behind the camera, there were 3 Czechs remotely operating the robot. There was one for the wheels, one for the hands, one for the head. But the face itself was added in post-production. It was actually 3D animation. So the robot on the set didn't have face or eyes, so we were just feeding the lines. So it so as I said, it was quite difficult for our main actress, to collaborate with that thing like like that robot. He was moving all right, but there was no expression on him. And that was added later, and we had actually quite long post-production process. It's of course it's not Star Wars, it's not Marvel, it's not Lucasfilm, but for our modest, circumstances, 500 shots with the VFX, it's quite serious job. So we spent after we finished shooting. Actually, the easiest part was to shoot the film. It was 32 shooting days. The most difficult part was, those 6 years before it, to get the finances and get the script right, and the year after it to make the post-production and everything, animation, compositing, and everything else.
So in total, it takes you like what, around 6 or 7 years?
6 or 7 years, yes, to make it done. Yeah.
Wow! And then just recently, you got an award for film in the Calcutta International Film Festival for the.
We are rounding closing the number of 70 festivals all around the world.
Wow!
Travels quite nice, and evidently it had some universal international appeal. And that was exactly what we were aiming for. So it's doing quite right. In Russia, we just got the other some in Russia some award, and then in Finland, all over the world. In India, it's quite successful, So actually, in Norway, in the first week, we had more viewers than Disney's Mulan. So that's quite.
Wow.
Yeah, but these are limited screenings under the COVID, conditions. But anyhow, it's a quite. Where we are comparing budgets, in Croatia, we were starting parallel with Tim Burton's Dumbo, which has a budget, I think, around $150 million, and our movie had 1.5, so you could make literally 100-hour movies with a budget or Dumbo. And we had quite similar viewers in the Croatian cinemas, so I think it's a nice achievement.
I see. And how was it when it was screened in Croatia, especially in Zagreb?
Well, our world premiere in Zagreb, it was really great. We were of course we were biting our nails. We had few test screenings before that. To our own kids and everything. But it's quite different when you have a full cinema full of 400 or 500 kids for our target audience, and their reaction was ecstatic actually, and this may sound a little bit sadistic from me, but one of our test screenings, when I saw the whole row of teenage girls crying their eyes out on the bridge, so I felt quite happy actually, and I said yes, we did it. So we wanted to have that emotional impact on our younger audience, and I think children these days are maybe a little bit overprotected, especially from the concept of death. I don't know, 100 years ago, that as itself was a part of every household. There weren't hospitals, I don't know, homes for the elderly, and it was quite natural to see grandpa dying on the other bed, for the grandchildren, and these nowadays the death is exiled in some way,
Yeah.
outside our houses, and it's like it's kind of a taboo, and it happens elsewhere. So, and at the time of filming, I was sadly my own parents were passing away. So we decided not to hide away, from those difficult and sad feelings,
difficult times.
because they are supposed to be the natural part of life. So when I saw the girls crying, I said, of course, it was cathartic right away, because the grandpa's soul was transferred into mother's back, so we aimed for that kind of a metaphor, parallel, allegory. And it was happy tears, in the end. So.
Yes, I think that was also like one of the most interesting part of this film, because you put it's very rare these days to watch kids film like this which portray all the closeness and also all the outdoorsy kind of feelings that Una has also with her grandpa. And well, so yeah, as I told you before, it's also resonates pretty personal for me, because I was also as close to my grandpa, and then also to see that in next to you, that is also something that personal. I can imagine that people is going to be crying also in the cinema. So yeah. And then also, what was the difficult part? Because you mentioned that you are already being accustomed to work with child actors in your previous work. So what was the biggest challenge then in making this film?
Well, the biggest challenge for our main actress was actually crying, that we just talked about. She was very scared, particularly at that scene at the end at the bridge, so we were supposed to start crying. That was more challenging for her, She said, I can do everything, just so we were rehearsing those tears, and that it was a bit of a struggle, but it was, at 5 in the morning, at the end of the night, she was a bit, tired and desperate and everything. So at the end, it came quite natural, and she was great in that scene. And the technical part, was really quite challenging, because all of those special effects, we had to. It was partially like making an animated movie, because we had to plan every single detail in advance. There wasn't that much room for improvising, to improv. We improvised a lot in the rehearsal process, but after that, when we started shooting, everything has to be quite, exact and fixed, so we can add the special effects later on. And 30 something days of shooting for film like this is not that much, so every day was a struggle. Should we make it or not? The sun is coming down, we have 2 more shots, but eventually we made it. In Hollywood, film like this they will be shooting it for a couple of months probably, but in Croatia 30 something days, it's quite luxurious, so.
I see. And was Lana and also Niels, were they also your first pick for the actors?
Now you reminded me about what's the most difficult part, so Niels, our grandpa, is actually a Norwegian guy, and we needed him to speak Croatian, so imagine that you have to learn yourself, the lines on Croatian, phonetically, and we needed to court him, we was writing a lot of emails, to persuade him to take this job, because he's a big star in Norway. And when we saw him and talked to him via Skype at first, we were immediately sure that this is our guy, but he was quite hesitant, because that part of learning, he said, guys, to me is like learning a phone book, he could learn it phonetically, but the words doesn't mean anything to him. So we had a 2-step process, actually. Of course, we translated our script in English, and he read that. And
so he can understand the meaning.
Yes, yeah. So he picked up the meaning of every scene and emotions from every line of dialogue. And then we find one Croatian girl who was living in Norway, and who was going through the script with him, and he phonetically learned, word by word, syllable by syllable, every Croatian line. And later on, we had to dub him with the Croatian actor because he was precise in the written, but the accent wasn't sounding like Croat.
So it's not believable.
And the most interesting part is he filmed his role in Croatia on Croatian, and when the film was playing in Norway, he dubbed himself way back on Norwegian. He insisted to have in his contract, so the actor who was doing the grandpa on Norway will be him. So it was quite schizophrenic in some way for him. And we have a similar not that difficult situation with the role of mother. She was actually from Slovakia, and Slovakia and Croatian language are a bit similar. Actually, we can understand each other quite well without a dictionary on Google Translate. And she learned her lines quite easily, but the accent was also wrong, so we dubbed even her with the other actress. But when her film was playing in Slovakia, she also dubbed back herself on Slovakian. So it used to be difficult, on days, so.
Yes. So like many of actors and actresses coming from their country, and then when it was screened, and then they have to dub them themselves again. That's quite a frantic kind of process. But I'm glad that they actually made it. Yes.
So it was actually really big melting pot of a production, so literally.
Yeah, 7 countries. How was it? You mentioned before that it was like 7 countries took part in this co-production. And I was just like wondering, how is it actually to fund a film in Croatia? Do you have kind of funding system or?
Yes. We have a Croatian national, it's called HAVC, Croatian National Fund, so we are when you wrote the script, you can compete, and there's a competition every year, so we have a script, and that's the first step, and after that, when we got funding in our native country in Croatia, my producers started to go all around Europe, competing, in similar, funds all over the Europe, presenting our script and the project and everything, and one by one we got funded, but it's not like they're giving you money. So the Norwegian people, they gave us a grandpa, like a main actor and a composer and sound design. So we were mixing sound in Lillehammer in Norway, which is quite far away from Croatia, for example. Czechs, they were participating in 3D animation. Those bad robots, they were animated in one famous Czech studio, and they made real Dodo, the robot. In Slovakia, there is that one guy who made this animation, what happens on the other planet. That's the Slovakian part. Animation of Dodo is made by Croatian, and it was made by Croatian animators, but compositing was in Bosnia. While DOP is Slovenia, and so people and various talents were all around those Europe and those our co-producing countries. They gave something, of themselves.
It's nice to know that everybody contributes something, like to put like a potluck party, but that is making a film.
Yeah. Well, it's a really quite a liberating experience, So.
Yes, it is.
It's a small world.
Yeah. And Dražen, now we have some questions actually from the audience. I'm going to start reading them one by one. The first one is from Murniti Murni. This movie is very interesting and the storyline is unique. She was asking, where did you get the inspiration when making this film?
So as I said earlier, the inspiration came from one short story, and we were inspired with various films for our own childhood. This is basically ambient entertainment, Steven Spielberg. We were occupied with those movies, when I was a kid in the 80s, a long time ago.
When I was a kid also.
Yeah. So we wanted, to achieve something, to achieve the same emotional impact with our movie that E.T. and similar films in those days have on us, So that's basically it,
I was also wondering actually when your kids saw the movie, what
Mhm.
did their first reaction, or they said something?
Well, it was quite difficult for them because I was testing them. It was quite difficult the viewing experience because I was testing them with the film still unfinished, So it was a little bit confusing, and they were my first, lab rats, so to say. My small sweet lab rats, but it was, with some rudimentary animation, just like placeholders, and so I had to talk with them, here there will be a, alien ship coming now, and Dodo will have eyes, So it was difficult for them, but they were quite satisfied that they weren't losing concentration, they were into it, but it was difficult for them, to see it as a finished product because it wasn't at that point in time, So, but of course, they were in all of the premieres later on, with the finished film. But I already spoiled it for them, So it's quite difficult to say. I ruined that initial, viewing experience for them, unfortunately. But I had to use someone.
True. I think we will use most of our next kin or family or relatives as a lab rats for our work.
Yes, of course.
Yes, and also there's a next question from Lukman Muktiwibowo. Thank you, Dražen, for making this movie. I would like to know how to make a robot sing normally like a human. I saw you did a good job in making it come true.
Yes,
it's so true. I agree with Lukman.
That part, we had a kind of a tradition in our country with the film for kids from decades before. They always used to be some kind of musical sequence, And my co-director Marina, after she quit editing, when she was an editor, she edited quite a lot of music videos in Croatia, and when there was a boom of a great expansion of music videos in Croatia in '90s, she edited quite a lot of them. And later on, she turned into director of music videos, and she actually insisted that we must have some musical sequence in the film. I was a little bit, actually, honestly, I was a little bit skeptic about it. I wasn't sure where to insert something like that, but she was insistent, and I came aboard later on. So this is actually that song that plays on the closing credits. It's actually a big hit from the 80s in Croatian pop music. It's on Croatian, of course, but it translates like the totally different than everybody else. That's something like a refrain of it, So it promotes differentiality to being different. And so we made the beatbox version of that song, and one experienced beatboxer from Bosnia actually recorded himself, beatboxing, and Lana was rehearsing, over later on. And actually, we cleverly mixed her voice with his. It's unrecognizable, but he's helping a little bit, from underneath, to make those, because it was too difficult for her to beatbox like a real beatboxer.
Like a real beatboxer,
She was trying, but not getting real there. So we mixed his voice underneath hers, so it quite, and it turned out quite nice sequence, And a robot singing, and of course our composer from Norway, composed around it, so around the big box, and put some melody underneath it, So
awesome. Because beatboxing itself is quite a skill.
Yeah, of course.
I thought that Lana was actually doing it because of the practice, and then wow, good, that's really good. Okay. And then the next question is, hi Dražen, I was wondering, is there any certain rules for hiring young actors in your country?
But we don't have rules for hiring them actually, but there's a question of working hours. It's they're not supposed to be on the set longer than 8 hours per day. So
8 hours.
8 hours, but in some, I don't know, in Slovenia, which is our neighboring country, I think it's only 4 hours. So, for example, our director of photography, which is from Slovenia, he's supposed to shoot another film for kids. and they're supposed to have child actors. The story takes place on Christmas in one night, on the snow in continuity, and they have kids in every single shot. So it's virtually impossible, for them to shoot the movie if they can work only 4 hours per day. They need to fill at least 12. So they are going to shoot a large part of the movie in Croatia, actually, because of our 8 hours. And to be honestly, there was 1 or 2 nights when we were cheating, but there was nobody checking up on us, fortunately. But Lana, our main actress, she was the last girl standing. Actually, we were all exhausted, in the 5 in the morning, and she was asking for one more take, so it wasn't a problem with her. But yes, there are kind of strict rules for kids. That's why in the United States for sitcoms and such stuff, they're usually hiring twins. It's not uncommon because when they're working, so they have one twin. 2 twins in the same part, I don't know, Elizabeth, Olsen sisters came from this kind of a working environment. They were stars in the TV series, and they were playing the same part, 4 hours one girl, and next 4 hours the other one, so they can they can shoot for the whole day actually.
I see. Okay. And you mentioned before that Lana has a background as a dancer. I think that explained how Una can do all this running around and very
actively. It was the most fun part for her, Tears were the hardest.
Okay, she's like an energizing rabbit bunny, I think. Yes. And also the next question was from Yayu Rahayu. Hi, Dražen. I enjoyed watching your film with my niece just now because we just screened it this afternoon. Thank you for making the film. It certainly looks expensive on par with Hollywood films and definitely way more than your budget of 1 million euros.
Yes,
How long did you create and fine-tune with the VFX in post-production?
Yeah, so we were quite aware that we are competing, my own kids, my son, he's all into Marvel, so in those big budget Hollywood A-list, movies, each costs now hundreds of dollars.
He's your biggest critic then.
Not to mention Star Wars and everything else, so we were quite aware that we are competing with those, with that kind of films, And so we are quite aware of the fact that we mustn't let down our audience, and we have to make VFX which are at least decent, not to ruin the viewing experience for them. Actually, the overall progress, of computer technology and everything, and last, maybe 1 decade ago, it would be quite impossible to make this film for 1.5 million euros.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's almost everyone has a personal computer at home, and it's a little bit of a skill, you can achieve miracles, So the budget was small, but we were quite clever about it, I think. We were it's a combination, as I said, on the robot, especially of practical effects, and when you don't have a lot of money, you are forced to get creative, actually. So I don't know. A lot of people asked me, how did you get those, space-like feel in the basement of the house? Actually, we were using carpet cleaning solution, which you can buy in every other shop, which has phosphorus in it, and we sprayed the inside of the cave, with that carpet cleaning solution. And when you light it with the black light, ultraviolet light, it shines.
So it's like glow in the dark.
And it looks enormously expensive, but actually it doesn't get any cheaper than that. Carpet cleaning solution and couple of UV lights. So I don't know, for the United States, we imported some kind of laser wire. It's ordinary wire with a laser beam. And I don't know, it's a couple of $100, for the 10 meters of it. We bought that over the internet, actually. And when the grandpa is imprisoned over there, we are, put that wire all around him. We bought a couple of dozens of those laser pointers, for the education purposes.
Yes.
and
Yes.
hide them and put a lot of the smoke in it and wrapped him in a plastic wrapper actually. So
That's
and,
very creative.
yeah, so it's also very, very cheap actually, but we added extra layer of 3D graphics on top of all of that, you know. So when it merges all together, it also looks quite expensive and complicated and intricate, you know, but actually it's quite simple. So as I said, when you don't have a lot of money, you need to get creative, you know. And robot is, as I said,
True.
also practical robot actually with a very rudimentary facial animation, and the most difficult part was tracking and compositing the animation of his face on the live robot, which was moving all around. And it took us, as EIU asked, almost a year to finish the picture, you know, and put all of those layers one on top of the other and be satisfied. So we were online on Skype every day, all day long, you know, with Czechia, with Slovakia, with Bosnia, compositing this, animating that. You know, no, we didn't think that. So we were shooting videos with Marina playing out, you know, scenes, you know, and sending them over that. So it was a lot of back and forth, you know, between us as creative heads and all the rest of the crew. But I think it pays well quite in the end. So actually, it's a great compliment to read, you know, to get recognized. Let's almost on par with the Hollywood films. So those are big words. So considering the budget, yeah, I think it's a success.
Yes, I think I would salute also your art prop team, who's very creative on doing all this imagination and making it very believable. Like, I mean, when you say all the production behind the scene, that's like, wow, yeah, it's very creative and manual. And then, but then it's when you pull it off, but like what we can see now, it's very amazing. Yeah. Yes. And also, I think there's another question from Yayu also that we haven't touched yet. How big is the market for family-oriented film in Croatia?
Well, not that big actually. The only films that are commercially kind of successful in Croatia are either film for kids like this one or comedies. You know, every other title is some kind of art house, you know, which tend to be a little bit, you know, deep, depressing, you know, so not that appealing for the wider audience. It doesn't mean those are also good movies, you know, but it's a, you know, other side of the coin, you know, because they don't tend to be at the start to you know, to appeal to commercially for the wider audience. But those titles travel quite well, you know, on the art festivals, you know, all around Europe.
Yes.
But you know, we have 4 million people in Croatia altogether, and I don't know, some kind of 60 cinemas, so it's not a big of a market. But because of those co-production terms and agreements with our co-producing countries, our film was screened in cinemas in all of our co-producing countries. You know, so film was playing, you know, as I said earlier, in Norway and Bosnia, here and there. It was the most watched Bosnian film in Bosnia that year, you know. So it
was the most box office.
Yeah. So it's not. Those are not big numbers. You know, people in Bosnia don't go to the cinema that well. But at least, anyhow, our film was, you know, had most viewers over there. So, and it goes quite well, you know, now in the screening, you know, on streaming and everywhere else, you know. So we, of course, we rooted for bigger numbers, but I think we had a little bit of a bad timing. You know, we started the same week with, as I said, Disney's Dumbo. So we shared, and there was one an animated movie, Corgi, like Queens or something like that. It was also quite a big hit, and we were competing with them. So the problem with our film, you know, Dumbo, is you don't have to market it actually, although it was heavy marketed, you know, but everybody knows what Dumbo is, you know. So and our target audience still goes in the cinema together with their parents. So when you see 3 posters on the wall, you know, one is Dumbo, everybody knows what Dumbo is, you know. The other is Corgi, you know, sweet little doggy, and in between is my grandpa is an alien. You know, our thought is a little bit murky, you know. They're not quite sure what to think about that. We split in those first few weeks, we split the audience with those 3 movies, you know, and all of us, we have similar numbers, you know, but if there was only one by one, you know, I'm sure it would be much better. But when the word of mouth came in, you know, but as I said, since then we are nearing our 17th festival, you know, right now. We got, I don't know, 15 something awards all around the world. So the movies travels quite nicely.
Yes, that's true. And then, but in the cinema in Croatia itself, like what kind of films that usually screen besides the Croatian
Well,
film?
I think usually in the rest of the world, you know, Hollywood is a pretty dominant force, you know, so it's unbeatable, you know. So multiplexes took over, you know, all the cinema scene in Croatia some years ago, and they're feeding the audience with the Hollywood product mainly. And here and there, you manage to sneak in some, you know, European or foreign film, you know, which is not strictly, you know, made for the great commercial success, which tends to be a little bit more, you know, reflective or something like that. But Hollywood dominates our cinema market still, for sure, as our screen says in the rest of the world, I think. You know, so
I see.
But you know, all of those streaming services nowadays, you know, there are a lot of, you know, great titles that you can find over there. The big screens are getting less and less expensive to buy, so everyone, especially in these COVID times, we can watch movies at home also.
Yeah, that's true. How much is actually the ticket price in the cinema in Croatia?
Ticket price, let's put it into dollars. It's not that $10? Expensive. It's, I don't know, $5, let's say, or something like this, $5 or $6. It's not that expensive, you know.
Okay, so around $5. Yes, I think here is less than $5, like $3 for cinema.
Something like that, yeah.
And your next film, you said that it's going to be also about kid film. Maybe you can.
No. Actually, it's a horror comedy. Actually, I just got funding for it. You know, it's this one will not be for kids for sure. But out of it, I came to idea for another maybe kids project, like a zombie film for kids. You know, like a Walking Dead for kids. So I have a synopsis somewhere in my drawer. I have to write a script out of it also, but now primarily I'm focused on that next movie and how to fund it at the moment, you know, because all of this COVID situation is difficult. Actually, all those markets that I mentioned before that were quite helpful for our movie, which was made pre-COVID, they're a little bit closed right now. So it's not that easy to get. You know, I have approximately half of a budget in Croatia right now, but I need to raise another 50% of the budget. You know, somehow somewhere around Europe, but it's quite difficult at the moment. You know, everything is closed. You know, there's not enough money. So I don't think I will manage to make it in the next 1 or 2 years. You know, we have to. Got to found somehow, and then we'll think about it later. And meanwhile, I'm working on television. Just 10 years ago, I was finished with the shooting of one sitcom TV humoristic series. So I'm making my living on TV at the moment. You know, in between movies, and which was the case actually for all of my career. You know, making TV series, and from time to time find the time and means to make a feature one.
Yes, I think also the filmmakers in Indonesia here are also doing quite similar than what you do. It's either in between their work from making films, they're also working in the television, or probably also doing some work with the agency and other creative work as well. As for this horror comedy, is it possible for you to share a little bit of information about the story to us?
Well, yes, it's a story from one of my friends. It's a kind of allegory. You know, we were in that 20 years ago. We were in the middle of that war in Croatia. You probably heard about it, and in the former Yugoslavia, actually. So it starts like a comedy about the guy who is forced to take a job at one remote island in the Adriatic Sea, which is part of Croatia. And there's a zombie apocalypse starting over there, because he's fighting for his dear life. and the origins, of the zombie apocalypse. They are going far in the past. In the midst of the Yugoslavian and Croatian war. So it's kind of allegory, but it's also quite fun, and it's that unusual mix of horror and comedy. It's funny, and so it's quite interesting. We won't have that much special effects like in My Grandpa is an Alien, but I have to make vampires or cannibals or something, with the big teeth, and there's a lot of blood involved. So
More of creativity and more of our.
A lot of tomato juice, probably.
A lot of tomato juice for the blood. That's quite cool. And any ideas of when are you going to do the production? Probably sometime
I
next
think
year?
it's still a year or two away, until we find the funds, to make it, So we are still at the beginning of the whole production process. We just got the initial funds, in Croatia. In Croatia, so now we have to sell it in some neighboring countries, to find more means to make it happen.
So it's going to be a kind of co-production again, like what you did.
Yeah. It needs to be. Without that, I don't know how. It's not that expensive, as complicated as My Grandpa is an Alien, but it's not that easy. You can make. You cannot. It's all night shooting as horror should be. With a lot of atmosphere. Big lighting. And everything. So it's complicated in some other way than My Grandpa is an Alien was.
Yeah, but kindly let us know on the updates, because Indonesian audience here love horror and comedy, so that would make a perfect.
So of course we are aiming for the wider audience with this one. That's for sure.
All right, Dražen. Thank you so much for your time, also for joining our film talk today. And before we end, let's take a photo. I was just reminded by the host, Neta. We will take a photo for, but I don't know how to do this. I think Neta will help us in queuing on how to do this. Neta, can you please kindly help us?
Hey everyone, so please look at your camera and stay still for 1 to 2 seconds to avoid any delay, and I will count to 3.
Okay.
1,
Neta.
2, 3. One more time, please. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was quite pleasant talk, and it's great to follow our movie all around the world, and all the best luck, cinematically and health-wise. Stay safe and stay healthy. Greetings.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, good luck also for your next project. Can't hardly wait to see that one.
Thank you.
It was a great fun. Thank you.
A couple of years. Okay. Bye.
Yes, thank you, Dražen. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So yeah, that was a fun talk with Dražen Žarković from Croatia, the director of My Grandpa is an Alien. The movie just screened in our festival 2 hours ago, and you can still catch them by today. We still have the tickets, and it's still available until the next 5 days if you haven't got time to watch it. And also, I would also like to, I think, mention there are some films that's still available to be watched in Europe on screen, and we still have other film talks. Actually, I think the last one will be held tonight by my co-director Nova Yazid. So we have other films that has been sold out. I think you can actually check in our Instagram for those films, but there are also some films that are still available to rent, like My Grandpa is an Alien, until the 4th of December. It's still available until the 4th of December. And then we still have also Instinct, and then Those Who Work, White Riot, Window to the Sea, Making the Grade, That Time of Years, Amateurs, Akasa My Home, and The Band. For The Band in Akasa My Home, it's still available until today, so you please watch it now. As for the time of year, so as for Amateur, it's available until tomorrow. The rest, like at the time of year, Making the Grade, Window to the Sea, that's available until Tuesday. And also the rest, it's still available until this Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And also we have extra screenings, films that backed by popular demand in Europe on Screen 2020. Please check out the titles in our Instagram as well, and we will open the booking of the tickets by tomorrow. So I hope you guys are able to catch up with all these screenings about all of all the films that you've missed, but please don't miss it again this time. And yes, I wish you a good Sunday. Stay safe, stay sane, and wear your mask. Ciao, ciao.